the agenda that we have displayed. Do I hear a motion?
So
Move to
moved.
approve. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. You can look at the minutes from the prior meeting, available on the calendar online. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from our test meeting?
I read them and I make a motion we approve the minutes.
Second.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. All right, first item on our agenda for today, we have the review of the regulation of use of gas leaf blowers as pertains to our noise ordinance. Mary Gertz assigned it to us on November 4th, 2020. Mr. Nikki Jones, I think staff has some information they'd like to report back before we enter some discussion among commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioner Edwards. I'm going to share my screen real quick. What I have proposed that we do for this presentation is go over the exact same presentation that we did at our last meeting, because you, Commissioner Edwards, were not here and wanted to make sure you didn't miss out on anything. So that presentation basically consisted of going through the mayor's charge and then talking about the relating existing ordinances that are on the books that pertain to gas-powered leaf blowers. So for the LRC members who've been on board, you will be seeing the exact same presentation. We just want to make sure Commissioner Edwards gets the exact same information that you have. So just as a reminder.
Well, I'm sorry, Nikki, this wasn't clear when we met prior, but I did watch our previous meeting. So staff, you can keep that in mind as you go through this presentation. I did see the previous meeting, so I'm up to speed on what y'all displayed before. But if you have any updates ever since the last meeting, go for it.
Just as a reminder, this is the mayor's charge. And Doug, if you'll kind of just quickly go over the ordinance real quick and how it may pertain to gas-powered leaf blowers. And then at that point in time, I think staff is prepared to kind of talk about some existing things that we're doing right now. Solid Waste is doing some things, leisure services, and so is Central Services. But I'll let Doug kick it off.
All right, thanks, Assistant Manager Jones. So the important thing to emphasize here is that these exclusions in the noise ordinance don't apply to manufacturing, governmental, or commercial entities in the normal course of their business. But for the situations where it is applicable, I won't read the whole ordinance because it's there for you to see, but it's applicable within any residential zoning district or within 300 feet of any residential district between the hours of 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. in the morning. So anytime between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., you can use a gas-powered leaf blower in any of those zones. And then on the next page, let's see. I'm sorry. I wanted to point out one other thing on that previous page. Where is it? I think I'm not seeing it. Yeah, okay. I think it's different in the agricultural residential zone. I think, yes, it's between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. So it's just a little bit different on the time constraints. And I said at the previous meeting, we don't receive many complaints about this ordinance. And I had one citizen resident call me and she wasn't happy with me saying that. People have complained about this over the years. And I think most people just understand that it's allowed during those hours and they tolerate it. So I'm not going to say it doesn't bother anyone, but we don't get a lot of official complaints about this ordinance. And the other section on the other slide is construction noise. And we do regulate construction noise. It has different hours. It's also applicable to residential or that can be heard in residential. And if I can answer any other questions about our enforcement of these ordinances, I'll be happy to.
Great, thanks.
So staff, do you all have any updates on what you might be doing today, opposed to what we've done in the past, maybe some pilot programs related to electric leaf blowers?
Yeah, I'll jump in.
Nikki, if that's all right.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if there's an order, but yes, downtown, we've done pilots with multiple electric. I will say we just chose, though, to go with the Ego brand, and we finally got enough in to cover our litter techs along with rapid chargers and extra batteries. And we were hoping that they would all be put in place this week, but it'll be Monday. We have to safely secure the batteries and the chargers downtown. So we worked with downtown parking, and we just have to make sure we have proper lockup downtown, because our litter techs work from the downtown parking deck. That's where all their items are stored. So Monday we will be officially converted over downtown to Ego leaf blowers in the downtown district, which are electric. Just for inquiring minds, they have a 64 is what their rated decibel level, compared to our current ones, which are about 75 to 80 decibels with the gas powered. And then all the other benefits from the electric leaf blower. If anybody wants our comparison matrix, I'd be happy to share, because we've tried a couple of electric leaf blowers. This fiscal year, Mayor and Commission approved some extra funds in our litter tech budget so that we could do this pilot, so we could try a couple different brands to see what worked. Probably more so than any other department, we're the heaviest users of leaf blowers in Athens-Clarke County, more than likely. So that's my update for downtown.
Thanks, Suki. And I've used Ego tools too. I have those at my house, and I found they work really well. So I think the key thing is just being sure to store the batteries properly, making sure they don't get too cold, because that'll destroy them. So I assume we're doing that.
That's what we had to work out, Commissioner Edwards. We don't have indoor storage, but we're going to work with downtown parking to make sure that when it's really cold, we have storage of those batteries inside, because we work from the parking deck, which isn't climate controlled. So that's where all of our materials and everything is stored. So we also talked about the litter techs having to come back here, but it's just not efficient going between downtown and our department. They just are very efficient when they work out of the parking deck. So, but it's not insurmountable. We just had to, staff they were down there all day today trying to make sure we had proper storage, lockup, and then climate for the batteries. So thank you we don't have vast experience. It sounds like you already have experience with Ego, but that was their favorite. We purchased one to do a test, and that was the favorite one for our staff downtown. And we actually borrowed one first from landscape management. So from Jeannie, who's on here.
Yeah, they have a powerful battery, just as long as we're careful, caring for them, because the battery is the most expensive component. Those batteries can get up $200, $300. They last a long time if we care for them right. So.
Excellent. And I didn't realize we've already tested they charge you all in 20 minutes on the rapid charger, which that was important for us because we use them so much. So we have to have a primary and a backup all the time for each one. So that after a big event, that's our heaviest using time, that we want to make sure that we always have a battery ready. And those rapid chargers we've already tested. It took about 20 minutes for us to get them charged. And that's just our initial test. Now we haven't fully put them in action downtown. So I'll know more in the coming weeks.
That's great. We got the initial higher cost, but it pays off in the long run in savings of fuel and oil and all the nasty maintenance that goes with those gas machines. So this sounds like a good move to me.
And the safety of our employees, Commissioner Edwards. They're not the safest for all of our employees to be wearing around on their backs, and it is hard on their hearing.
Yeah.
We have one employee that's been working with us and a couple other sanitation for a very long time, and he will tell you it has impacted his hearing. It's not just he works for several, not just us part-time, but he works with loud equipment. So I think it'll be, for us, we're always trying to look out for our employees when we can in this regard. So it's nice to have an alternative for them.
Yeah, I'm glad you raised that. The hearing plus the damage to the lungs from inhaling the exhaust and burning the oil is very hazardous. So yeah, that is an important point for me as well, is to keep our employees safe. Once you lose your hearing, it just affects your whole life. It really can be a severe detriment to living a fulfilling life. So really glad to see this transition go. So
Alex or Gavin, do y'all have anything to add?
Manager Jones, I've got Jeannie with landscape management on the meeting as well, and she can certainly chime in. But yes, we have piloted a few electric or battery operated blowers with landscape management as well as our facilities management division, both of which use them for leaf blowing and keeping other things clean. But certainly landscape management has close to, I believe, 40 different leaf blowers that they have to use at any one point in time amongst the many crews. And so although we are certainly open to any changes the commission sees fit, and have tested that out, we do have both pros and cons that I think we've discovered thus far. And there's obviously the budget issues that would come up should something be implemented on a larger scale. So, Jeannie, anything to add to that?
I was just gonna say the blower that we do have, we have been using it predominantly out at the water treatment facilities, not on the turf areas as much as the parking lot and around the immediate building. Just works best for our crews, only using it at those locations. We do have 2 weed eaters and a couple of edgers. Our only obstacle with that is using the RPMs on those pieces of equipment. We don't get more than about half hour of time with each battery. But once they're operating, they work great. We have no issues. It's just the continuation of recharging.
And I think one other point that I would just add to that is landscape management in particular would have to really test a pilot, I think, given that, that is one of the primary operations that each of these crews deals with on an 8-hour day, 5 days a week, is using this type of equipment. It's not just 1 hour a day or once a week. This is a continual use piece of machinery that would have to stand up to their standards, I guess, of continuous use for all of our landscape operations.
Okay, yeah, that's I can imagine that, sure. I guess one thing I would say though is that it is concerning to me that we are putting employees out in the field using machines that we know are hazardous to their health and their hearing. Sure, it might blow away leaves quicker than something else, but for what? For increased health costs for our pensioners and health insurance premium costs. I mean, I think we need to not just look at sort of the short-term quickness of a job, but also the long-term implications. What is the cost to us for an employee that loses their hearing and don't live a fulfilling life? I just think we need to plug that into our computations as well.
I agree, Commissioner Edwards.
Especially if you get some rapid charging going. I mean, if we can switch the fleet over and get a fleet of good, solid batteries with rapid recharging, I think we can get there where we work around some of these continuous workload requirements. But I understand, obviously this has a budget impact switching over, so let's look at the numbers and weigh it out, see what we need to do here.
I agree, and I think staff would agree as well. I think that's why we've kind of gone to these pilot programs. So Suki has got a pilot program going on, and it sounds like Central Services has one as well. Alex, I believe y'all do as well, correct?
Yeah, yes, sir. Kind of wait my turn. So Leisure Services, we do have a couple out in the field. We are trying different brands at different locations. We have some very specific uses when it comes to a leaf blower. Typically, it's more intermittent. Here at Sandy Creek Park today, they're used to blow off tee pads for disc golf and a couple shelters. We did use operational dollars to purchase the steel electric leaf blower with the 3000 battery, which is we got about 4 hours of runtime out of it, and
wow,
it works pretty good. It is the entire backpack is the battery, so unlike with the Easy Go, where they're more of like a brick. It is kind of heavy. I will say that. They do make a smaller size when we think about this, a little bit lighter. But it's really good for our applications because we do a lot of, blow this thing off, walk to the next place, blow this thing off, where with the gas-powered one, you're not necessarily shutting it down and restarting it. So cutting out all that idle time is good for us. Also being able to use these out in the field around park goers. It's kind of nice because when someone does come up with a question or have a comment to us, we can just shut it down instantly for their safety, but also for the noise. So we're pretty happy with them. We're using a Ryobi, and we're also using Cobalt in different places, and EasyGo out at the tennis center. But again, our applications are very different than what Central Services has going on. But the cost is dramatic. So I think we'd be happy to keep on replacing just as long as we're able to secure some funding for that.
Thanks. 4-hour runtime, that's impressive for me, and I think also you brought up the noise, folks are going to enjoy our parks more with a more peaceful escape. So I know Commissioner Wright had her hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I'm thrilled with all these updates, and the pilot trial and error is giving you guys specifics that you can put into dollar amounts. Chair Edwards, I think that for us to get things through committee that we can promote or have a letter that's saying for the budget, this is the money we're hearing is needed, or maybe a timeline, so that this committee, if we all agree that we want to make sure that we are doing the right thing for our employees, and like you said, those visiting our sites, and so that we can support it during this budget process, so that we can start making the changeover. So it sounds like there's a timeline maybe and a dollar amount for us to learn. But I think that before we start going to private property and private discussions on this, that we get our house in order first to be a good example, as well as being able to speak to which ones are working in different situations. This is good, impressive information. Thank you.
Commissioner Myers?
This is great, and it's really good to hear all the different departments working on these things. And like Commissioner Wright, yeah, in terms of getting some budget money for moving forward with this next year, that's great and helpful. I am curious whether or not this is something that the departments are initiating themselves. We have our 100% resolution, and we're coming up with that plan. And there'll be some policy suggestions in there. Are there policies local governments put in place that address this, so it's not just so it's sort of we have I guess that's all I'm asking. Is there a policy that we can put in place internally to encourage this or require it?
Well, I think that's what we're moving forward on, figuring out how we can transition this government. And, I view this as part of our 100% pledge. We're moving away from fossil fuels. We're moving towards renewable energy. So, yeah, I think as soon as we get some budget figures and figure out what it's going to take to make a complete transition, then absolutely, let's go ahead and phase them out.
Mr. Edwards, if I could, I'd
Sure.
recommend that, we tie it to the strategic plan. So, there's a sustainability component in the strategic plan. So theoretically, the strategic plan is also tied to the budget. So if we can take some sort of incremental approach and then, lay out some milestones for each year that we want to hit, so the budget doesn't have this full impact. Every year we want to do X, and then finally get to this final goal. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a policy. I think it's really strategy.
Yeah, and I would, with those figures, I'd also like to know the best estimate we can get on our fuel costs. The life cycle of these gas machines, from what I know, is shorter than a typical 4-stroke engine. It's a dirtier burning engine. It burns oil, so they don't last as long. So just really take an all-encompassing look at the budget ramifications here by incorporating all the costs associated with the status quo. Yeah, Commissioner Hool.
Thanks. So on the internal side of things within the Clarke County government, I'm really encouraged by what we're hearing today and fully support us moving forward to transitioning to all electric as soon as possible. We have that retreat tomorrow to discuss the initiative level part of our strategic plan. So I definitely support making this part of it. For me, I've had a hang up on this as colleagues who were in past meetings were there for, and I think you've watched and seen Commissioner Edwards around legislating this in people's private lives. To be clear, I hate leaf blowers, especially the gas-powered ones. And I also have struggled to understand how it makes sense for us to legislate against their use on the local level. But since that meeting, Chair Edwards has talked with me and said some things that were fairly convincing. And I guess I wanted to just encourage us, since it seems like we agree on the internal side, to shift to this external side and see if we can find a resolution for what, if anything, we want to do in that regard. Because I think a lot of what drove this to come to our plates in the first place was the abundance of these things being used in neighborhoods that are full of people who don't work for the government. So I don't know how you want to take us there, Chair, but.
Well, I think, taking a good look at what we're doing as a government, we control, lands for leisure services and downtown cleanup, doing the best we can to create a peaceful environment for our citizens. What's the point of going to Sandy Creek Park if you're going to be sitting next to a gas leaf blower all day? I mean, nobody wants that. So, working, as Commissioner Wright said, to get our house in order to create the best experience for our citizens as possible while taking care of worker safety and moving towards a renewable future, setting an example, and then going from there, seeing what the appetite is in the community at large. I mean, I agree there are neighborhoods in Athens where leaf blower noise has become ubiquitous. So it's sure, we need to talk about rights and obligations, but also the rights of citizens to peacefully exist in their own house, to peacefully enjoy their own property. So I'm looking to, discuss common sense rules that could help create more peaceful communities and instill worker safety and a renewable future for our community at large. So I think, starting the discussion here with what we can do with our own institutions and then seeing how those steps make sense and how they might apply broader. Do any other staff members have some input, Mr. Jones?
I don't believe so at this time. I'd like to take this time to thank all the staff for coming prepared today. I know that we had discussed that we were just kind of going to go over what we did last time, but as y'all can see, they all came prepared to kind of talk about next steps, pros and cons, the balancing needed to, between, efficiencies, service delivery, and then the cost. And that takes a lot of time to think about. And I just want to say thank you to the staff. And Suki, I'm sorry, you had your hand raised.
Yeah. Is there any way, because since we all are kind of in the infancy of using these and maybe before Mayor and Commission would make any decisions that would go residentially, I would like us to come together, like pros and cons. After we haven't used them that long, nor has anyone else. But I think there's going to be some really positives, but there's going to be some cons even for us downtown, because for us the batteries don't last as long as the gas powered. So that has been. But would that be useful? At least we could come back together before any other decisions are made, so that you all are armed, because the landscapers throughout our community are going to have similar. They're going to experience similar things that we're going to experience over the next few months as we really roll these out in a way that we never have before for solid waste. I'm only speaking for solid waste right now.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a great point, Suki.
For me, it's we're taking a very reasoned, deliberate approach through this whole thing. So absolutely share all the information you have as you work through these new machines. So we're taking this deliberately, reasonably. Looking forward to hearing back from staff next month with more information on the cost and figures as we get close to budget season. So, Commissioner Hool.
Thanks, Chair. I guess what remains a little unclear to me is just, are we saying we're pushing pause for now while we see how things go internally on any of the external?
I'm not looking for a motion to pass any policy today.
Okay. I just, maybe the one thing I'd like to raise up before we move on from this topic is what we got into a bit in the last meeting was kind of what, if any, grounds we have around enforcement for this. I don't know if you want to spend time on that today or if that's just something to plan on for next time.
No, not today.
Okay.
Yeah, that's far off. I think we're just working with staff to implement these changes, getting our house in order. We're moving very reasonable on this. Yeah, we're not, I'm not looking for anything like that today.
So we will be prepared to come back next month, hopefully with some additional updates since we've been using them a little bit longer. And maybe, I can't promise right now because I haven't talked to staff, some budget estimates as well. I think that would be super helpful in this conversation.
That's great, Mr. Jones. All right. I echo the gratitude to staff for coming prepared and sharing this good information and look forward to working this through the process. So shall we move on, sir, to the next?
Yes, sir.
Special events.
So the mayor's charge around special events was this, and I won't read it, but some of the big takeaways that we saw from this ordinance and some of the changes was basically allowing an approved open container within a festival zone. One, actually going back, allowing a festival zone, and then allowing an approved open container within said festival zone. Then permitting the non-glass drinking vessels up to 24 ounces, limiting the number of festival zones to 1, and the special outdoor cafe areas 2 per block. One of the big things we wanted to talk about or ensure that was in the ordinance was that we had special conditions for the permit if needed during the administrative review. And then additionally, we also said that the festival zones could be no larger than 4 consecutive blocks. So we asked Mayor and Commission to extend this for another year because we did not think we had enough time to fully evaluate kind of the ramifications of it. So we had 2 festival zones or 2 festivals that took advantage of this. And so we had 2 opportunities to kind of evaluate. But my understanding from staff who's here today, and they'll talk more about it, was we thought we needed a little more time. But that being said, we did learn some things over those 2 events. And today we will talk through it, and Lieutenant Basinger, I believe, is going to be the representative for the police department, and Gavin Hasmer will be the representative from Central Services. These 2 departments really lead the way when we're talking about events downtown, and specifically these type of events. So Lieutenant Basinger, I'll kick it to you.
Thank you, sir. I think Mr. Jones hit it on the head. We've only gotten to use it twice, and I don't think that's given us enough exposure to make a decision. I would like to utilize it. We just had several of our normal events that would typically be interested in this backed out due to COVID. So we would like to keep it running for another year, and hopefully we can work through more of it. And the reason being is every time that we've done this, we've learned some significant things that you just can't think through. So I was not present for criteria when they used it the first time, but I did do Wild Rumpus, and from that, the actual festival itself worked very well. I think people had a real good time with it. We did have a few issues with it. One of them is obviously how it's marked, trying to contain it. A lot of folks wandering out that didn't realize they just couldn't take their beers and walk away and go do whatever they wanted to do. The other thing that really big that came out of that was the festival started as a festival, then the parade came out of the festival, and the parade returned to the festival. And that was a terrible plan. The entire parade was nothing but a walking beer garden when they left, and there was no way to stop it. So based off of that, I don't have a problem in the world with a parade ending in a festival zone. But I really don't think that we should ever have one start in a festival zone. It just leads to that sort of behavior. And there were 2 guys in the very middle of it that each had 2 40-ounce glass bottles, and there was no way to get to them to get rid of that. I mean, it was amazing. But other than that, I think the festival zone itself works very well. And I don't know if everybody's got the same information in front of them that I do, but you know, there are some things that from law enforcement side of it doesn't really matter to us. The stickers and the labels on drink cans, stuff like that, that doesn't really change anything. The wristband makes all the difference in the world because you can immediately see it, know that that person's been screened. And working on the labels as far as the signage goes at the exits, that was the other biggest part is that we have to slowly transition this community over to this is something that we're going to do, but here are the rules. I know when Twilight Criterion, we did a lot of education after that because there was just a lot of misinformation where everybody thought, it's a festival zone and you can have beer wherever you want to. And that was not the case, or was not supposed to be the case. So those are just things that we have to work through. But yes, we would wish to carry it on for another year and see how many more we can do so that we can get a little bit better process for the festival zones.
In my understanding is the police department has some pretty clear recommendations moving forward. I think they would require some ordinance changes, but some of it may be administrative as well.
Okay. So what are we looking here for? Just a motion to recommend a 1-year continuation of this pilot? So
the continuation's already occurred, Commissioner Edwards, Mayor and Commission. Sorry, I didn't clarify that. Really what we're looking for here is a motion to approve the staff recommendations to be implemented within this special events ordinance.
Okay, so let's just take a moment to look at these recommendations then.
So the first one would be the increased education, advanced education specifically to event planners and licensed alcohol sellers. Now, and Gavin, real quick, is this something that's going to be taken up by Central Services or the police department?
Well, I think the recommendations on the final ordinance will be certainly in conjunction with the police department. We'll certainly look for their advice on some of it, but I do think that Central Services, given that we sort of head up the permitting of special events, would likely play a large role in finalizing the ordinance. And as you said, that's what we're looking for right now. I think in today's discussion is confirmation from the committee that you would like us to move forward with some of these recommendations and start drafting an ordinance update to come back to you with for finalization.
Come back to this committee?
We would like to come back to the committee once we've drafted an ordinance, just to make sure that we've gotten everything that
Sure.
committee. Yeah.
Now, number 5, do not expand the size scale of the festival zones beyond what is currently permitted. So what is currently permitted?
4 blocks.
1 festival zone per event. And Lieutenant Basinger, the size of that festival zone, I forget, it's no more than 4 city blocks.
4 city blocks.
Yeah, that should be big enough for me anyway.
That was, well, our thought on that is that was a arbitrary number that we picked.
Yeah.
And it seems to be fine. The problem that you get into with either multiple festival zones or humongous festival zones is it just becomes untenable.
Sure. Yeah, 4 sounds sufficient to me. You got the parade fix. Okay, committee, what are your thoughts? This looks okay to me, Commissioner Wright?
Thank you. Yeah, I like this feedback from the pilot already. I think that number 4 maybe should be listed more specifically, that when there's a parade, that the festival zone is only at the end, just instead of what it's not to be, but what it will be. You know, prohibited at the beginning of a parade, but the destination is the festival zone. I think that was, I could see how that would be challenging. And one of my areas of concern is number 3. So are you guys talking about going to an armband? Because I think the wristband issues are that they weren't tight enough. Like, I came away from Twilight and was able to slide my wristbands off, which means people can share them. And so maybe we're not trying to move to armbands, are we?
I think an armband is a wristband, right?
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure it stays on the wrist. As far as when I first read that, it sounds like it's something bigger, more visual, which obviously somebody would be able to slip off. So I think part of in number one, it covers my issue so that the event staff know that they put the wristband on, not a person, and that it's clamped down to where it can't slide off and be shared. But that's, I think, number one's covering that with the improved education. So I look forward to seeing this and looking at it one more time before it goes to the mayor and commission. Thank you.
So maybe just change number 3, just say wristband. Everybody knows what that is.
Yeah, I think so. And then make sure that the education is making sure they're not because I was just given a band to put on. So make sure that they put it on there tight, and then making sure it's clear on number 4. And then I think this should flow smoothly through here and back out, is my opinion. I look forward to supporting it.
So I wanted to be clear on number 2.
So then, Mr. Jones, so maybe we need to call out explicitly, festival organizers are responsible for installing wristbands or placing wristbands.
You were going exactly where I was going. Making sure the roles and responsibilities are clear on these very specific things, because I think number 2, the intent is for that to be the responsibility of the event planner or the vendor, correct?
That's right.
It is, and the wristbands are also, that is also their responsibility, whoever the sponsor of the event is.
Yeah, they got to latch them on.
And the bulk of, I will say that the bulk of the education is towards the sponsors and whoever they're working with. However, due to some misinformation after Twilight, I did have a meeting with all of the alcohol licensees downtown to clarify a lot of that stuff, just to kind of get everybody on the same sheet of music. But that's where a lot of this is aimed at, is at the sponsor of the event, so that they can get it set up right. Because if you don't define what you need in signage, they're taping up pieces of notebook paper and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So I'll entertain a motion to.
Yeah, I motion to approve.
Release staff to move forward on this pilot ordinance drafting.
I move to approve these recommendations as described by Commissioner Edwards.
And we will work with the attorney's office to come back next month as well to show you the updated ordinance.
Yeah. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. Okay, Mr. Jones, you have your direction, sir. All right, let's look at the next meeting. Everybody get your calendars going here. I believe this committee traditionally met first Thursday of the month?
That was just last year, I think, but most traditionally it was the same day as GOC, third Thursday, which is what we're doing today, I think. Right.
So let's see. I want to create enough space so that we have a sufficient span of time for staff to have something to report back on this electric transition. So maybe February 17th, Thursday, February 17th, 1 p.m. Commissioner Hull.
Yeah, I just wanted to share my thought on this. My understanding of why we moved to first Thursdays was so that stuff we pass out of this committee can make it into the next agenda cycle. So it creates a bit more efficiency. So I do think it would be good for us to get back to that at some point. I also think that we're going to be getting a list of new assignments from the mayor probably at this coming voting meeting. So
so do you want then Thursday, February 3rd? I'm fine with that. Thursday, February 3rd at 1 o'clock.
Commissioner Edwards, if I may, I'm not sure how much additional information we would have on the electric powered
That's
leaf
fine.
blowers.
That's fine. We can just touch on it, commensurate with whatever y'all have. It doesn't have to be expensive. Yeah, we won't have much expectation on that.
I don't care much where we do the February one, I guess. I was trying to make the case for longer term for the rest of the year to plan for first Thursdays again, is I guess what I was saying. So I don't, whatever y'all think is best for the coming month. I don't.
Well, let's go ahead and get on schedule. I mean, I'm fine with that. Thursday, February 3rd.
Good.
Well, that Chair Edwards and Assistant Manager Jones, does that give staff time to bring back the special events thing? Is that
It does. Well, that ordinance change, thank you, Commissioner Wright, for asking. That ordinance change should be pretty simple. We'll start working with the attorney's office today, and we should have something turned around pretty quickly on that one.
Well, that's great.
Great.
And go right in the hopper, right? At a committee.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And Commissioner Huell, what kind of assignments are you talking about that are going to roll out that might affect when our meeting is?
Oh, I don't know if they'll affect when our meeting is. We did that. The mayor had asked us to fill out the survey on a bunch of potential committee assignments, and I'm expecting that he's going to be telling us, his thoughts on which committees get which ones based on that feedback he's gotten from us.
Gotcha. When did that? What was the deadline on that? I missed that survey.
I believe it was last Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last Friday was the deadline, or Friday is when it came out?
Last Friday was the deadline. I think it came out the Wednesday after our voting meeting in January. I don't remember exactly the dates of those.
I missed
off
it.
the top of my head,
I guess I'll see the leftovers. Thanks.
Do we still want to continue with the 1.5-hour meetings? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that sounds good. If we finish up sooner, we finish up sooner.
Yeah.
Okay, so Thursday, February 3rd at 1:00. Sounds good. All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second moved.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Ayes have it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Later.
Next time.
Bye-bye.
Take care.